weekly text-based Tanya. We're starting chapter 41. Very good. Okay, the past three chapters, 38, 39, and 40, were all about the subject of intention. Great. Yeah, intention means the love and the awe of Hashem that we feel when we do a mitzvah that enhances or intensifies the effect of that mitzvah. Like we described it in those chapters, the degree of awe and love determines the level of world to which the spiritual impact of that mitzvah will ascend. Okay. Now, what we're going to do in chapters 41 through 50, basically for 10 chapters, we're going to speak about awe and love, but in a little bit different way than we were just speaking about awe and love. We're not going to speak about awe and love so much as the enhancer of the mitzvah that you're already doing, but as the underlying motivation that gets you to do the mitzvah in the first place. We alluded to this back in chapter 3. Back in chapter 3, we said that when we were breaking down the koyches nefesh, and we were talking about the intellectual faculties and the emotional faculties, and we said that the emotional faculties are the engine that drives mitzvah performance. And then we didn't really get back to that so much. So we're going back to that idea of explaining awe and love as the drivers for doing mitzvahs in the first place. And more specifically, we're going to speak about awe and love as distinct from one another. And then within awe and love themselves, we're going to speak about various different degrees and types of these emotions, as well as different meditations that yield these different degrees and different types of awe and love. Did you follow what I just said? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions. What chapter are we on?
41.
And this theme that we're starting 41 is going to go until chapter?
50.
Great. And very good. And mostly what are we going to be speaking about? What two emotions? Love and awe and love. Okay. I say awe and love for a reason, which you're going to find out today. Okay. What?
Thank you.
You don't say fear.
Yeah, well, fear is a type of awe, but it's a very low level.
Right.
Yeah. Awe? Oh, we're going to speak about awe at length. So you're going to have plenty of time to find out what awe means.
Can you give us a teaser and tell us what the last 3 chapters are about?
Hold on. No, I'm asking a question right now. Hold on.
It's a room full
Hold
of
on.
women.
Okay, I'm asking a question. Okay. What is the purpose of awe and love within the context of these 10 chapters?
The motivators.
The motivators to do mitzvahs. Very good. Okay, and where do you get them from?
Oh, I know what you're doing.
I said it. I did say it. I'm only asking you,
Where do you get what from?
where do you get awe and love from? I mentioned it.
Meditation.
Meditation. Very good. Okay. So the next 10 chapters is all about various different levels and types of awe and love. Awe and love are not monolithic. They each one of them has various different types and degrees. And we're going to learn more about those nuances. It's not just there's love, there's awe. No, there's a lot of different types, varieties of awe and love. And respectively, there are meditative subjects that one focuses on to yield these different forms of awe and love. Is this clear? Okay, and that's what's happening for 10 chapters. And people have even asked me this already. They're like, you know, there's a lot of times in Tanya where it says, go meditate and bring yourself to love and awe of Hashem, but you didn't really tell us what to do. Right? People have asked, all right? So guess what? You're in luck. you're going to have 10 chapters of different things to think about that will bring to different types of love and awe of Hashem. Yeah.
Which will motivate us to
You tell me, motivate us to do what?
serve Hashem with
To serve Hashem, to serve Hashem
love or awe.
with love and awe. Yeah.
Shouldn't this have come before the kavanah?
This, like I said, I said a few minutes ago that this really came in chapter 3, but he didn't elaborate at that point. There are different junctures in Tanya where important points are brought up and then not elaborated upon. And I have my own theories about why certain discussions are put on hold and only elaborated upon later. But I won't get into that.
Probably
Those
good.
are my theories, yeah.
Is there any other focus besides meditation that commands more space in Tanya?
You mean the fact that it takes up 10 chapters? No, this is the biggest. By the way, the whole concept of sections within Tanya is made up.
By you?
Well, not made up by me, but
Yeah, your map.
yeah, my map. But my map is based on the scholarship that preceded me. But what I'm saying is the Alter Rebbe doesn't anywhere say except for the chapter divisions themselves. The Alter Rebbe doesn't say these chapters are a group and these chapters are another group. But informally, yeah, the biggest group of chapters, meaning the theme that's dealt with for the most amount of chapters, would be this theme that we're about to start
Someone says,
now.
what is the overarching theme?
Well,
of
that's a great
Tanya?
question. If somebody were to ask me tell me what's the theme of Tanya, I would be hard pressed to pick one. I would actually be conflicted about
I would
picking.
take the Benoni, no?
Well, yeah. Well, what does the Beinoni mean? Yeah, that's a cop out because you just say the title.
Well,
Sefer
cop-outs-
Shalbeinim.
cop-outs are
Yeah.
good.
I think it would be that being a simple Jew is not so simple.
Okay, but the people are going to say, what does that mean? So I will tell you like this. There are two different synopses of Tanya that I would give that are almost, I wouldn't say antithetical, but somewhat in conflict with each other. One synopsis of Tanya, I would say, is it's a book about setting aside emotional perfection and focusing on behaviors. Although, on the other hand, my other synopsis of Tanya would be it's a book about how to bring oneself to feel love and awe of Hashem. They're both true.
Doesn't the second one encompass the first one?
No, the second one sort of implies the negation of the first one, because if it's about if it's about serving Hashem, regardless of your love and awe, so then it's not about love and awe, and vice versa. If it's about
Repeat the second one again, please.
the second one, it's a book about how to develop your love and awe of Hashem. My two synopses of Tanya are: it's a book about how to serve Hashem behaviorally, even if you lack sufficient love and awe. And then the other one would be, it's a book about how to develop love and awe.
So wait. Now I'm really confused.
I-
So
I-
based
I
on
know
the
you're
definition,
confused.
There's only chapters 41 to 50 are applicable? No.
We didn't even start.
We needed all the background and the syntax and everything.
You're asking me what the main theme of Tanya is. So on one hand, the main theme of Tanya is to pursue behavioral perfection, regardless of what emotions you're feeling, even if you're lacking love and awe of Hashem. Another synopsis of Tanya would be, it's a manual how to develop love and awe of Hashem. Yes, those are contradictory. I told you they're contradictory. Okay? It's a complex book. And ultimately, there's a resolution to this, which is basically, it's telling you do your best to develop love and awe of Hashem, but at the end of the day, when you don't completely perfect your emotions, you'll still have your behaviors to focus on. Yeah.
Basically, the other chapter we were saying that in order for your mitzvahs to go up, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be with intent. So now it's
Yeah.
saying that basically the only love and awe is the best way, or only if it's through getting love and awe through your mitzvahs.
So in chapter 3, he said that unless somebody actually feels something, ultimately he will not continue even doing the mitzvahs. And now we're speaking about the mitzvahs, we're speaking about love and awe as the motivation to do mitzvahs in the first place. In other words, in 38, 39, 40, we're speaking about, okay, you're doing the mitzvah anyway, so do it with more kavanah. Now we're speaking about love and awe as the initial motivation to do the mitzvah in the first place, without which there will not be a continued performance of the mitzvahs. Okay, so that's a lot of background. I'd like to just jump into the text now, okay? Okay, yeah.
When you say without love and all,
Yeah,
you'll end up not doing the mitzvah.
yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's what he says in chapter 3, yeah.
Does that still apply here?
Yeah. Okay, Perek Mem Aleph, chapter 41. However, it must be known, however is a pivot. However, it must be known, must be remembered always, the beginning of service and its root and its source. You know, the Alter Rebbe spent 7 weeks with one letter Vav. Is it Ikra Shorsha or Ikra Vi Shorsha? That Vav. He spent 7 weeks deliberating on whether or not
Add a vote,
he put it in and took it out.
7 weeks.
Yeah.
All right.
How do we know that?
Never worked.
How do we know that? Because once his brother, the Maril, Rabbi Yehuda Leib, walked in and saw him engrossed in writing. He was writing Tanya for decades. And he saw him engrossed in writing. And the Alter Rebbe turned to his brother and explained to him that for the past 6, 7 weeks,
I
I'm
think it's
working
6.
on one
Vav is
Vav.
numerical 6.
And, okay, maybe that's why he said it. He said, I've been working on whether or not to include this letter Vav. He says, but that's the way that Sefer Shalbeinim goes. He says, it's worth it when you're writing this book.
So he added it?
And in the end, it's there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the Tanya is written extremely meticulously, down to every letter. Okay, so what is the root and source of all service of Hashem that we have to remember all the time? V'hu, it is. Ki avsha yirhi sherish asumir v'ha'aval v'asei tev. Although in general we say that reverence, awe of God is the source of go away from evil, and love of God is a source of do good. There are 2 general modes. There is go away from evil, and there's do good. And generally they correspond to awe and love. Go away from evil is an expression of awe of Hashem. Do good is an expression of love of Hashem. And generally speaking, those categories are descriptive. Nevertheless, even in the proactive performance of mitzvahs, it's not enough just to do it based on love. When we simplify it, we say, yeah, awe is the source of the not doing, and love is the source of the doing. But it's more nuanced than that in reality. Even in the doing, it's not enough to have it motivated purely by love. Ulapachas, at the very least, that you have to at least arouse the natural awe in your heart that's hidden in your heart. We've spoken about this a number of times. The natural awe of Hashem that you feel to not rebel against the King of all kings, the Holy One, blessed be He. And to get that out of the latency in your heart and to get it revealed in the heart, or at least in your mind. Meaning if you can't feel it as a full-fledged emotion, at least it should be on your radar consciously as an idea. You following what he's saying? Generally speaking, if you are simplifying things, love is what you do for your beloved. Awe is what you don't do because of your beloved. You don't go there. You don't overstep those boundaries. You hold yourself back. However, taking a more nuanced look at it, the truth is, even in the holding back, to contrary, even in the doing, even in the proactive performance of mitzvahs, there has to be some level of awe involved as a motivation as well. In other words, it can't be entirely love. It can't be entirely a feeling of a desire to get closer. And he doesn't elaborate here why that is. But elsewhere in Tanya and Chassidus, we come to understand that love by itself, on its own, can actually, even holy love of God, can become on a subtle level self-serving. Because the very nature of love is expansiveness. That's why it leads to doing. Love is what you do for your beloved. And it can become self-centered, what I am doing for you. And in fact, without any boundaries, it can become even invasive. It can be cloying. It can be smothering. So there has to be that sense of self-containment, which we refer to as yira, even in the doing. That even when I'm doing for you, it's not because I enjoy doing nice things, but rather because of a sense of deference. When you're not doing, it's clearly coming from a sense of deference because inherently you are limiting yourself. When you're not doing, you're clearly putting the other person first because you are holding yourself back. It's in the doing that we have to be more conscious of the reverence and the deference. Otherwise, it can become more of a performance about me enjoying doing nice things. Okay? So he says, we're going to need to have awe all the time, not just in the holding back, where when you're holding back, awe is the main emotion, which is obvious, but even in the doing, there has to be a modicum of basic awe as well. So that's why I was saying awe and love before as opposed to love and awe, because he's saying Reishis ha'aveda v'yikra v'shosha, the beginning of service and its root and its source is the awe. You have to have the awe. And we forget the awe when it comes to the positive commandments. So he's reminding us, even when we're involved in the positive stuff, there has to be a level of self-containment as well. Okay? So far, so good? Okay. Practically speaking, you want an illustration of it?
Yeah, like if I'm enjoying the mitzvah and feeling
Exactly, the danger is you're enjoying the mitzvah, and then it becomes about your enjoyment of the mitzvah, right? Like the guy who is enjoying so much being a good husband that it's not about his wife, it's about his enjoyment of performing these acts of kindness.
Bring it on.
That's a bad thing.
You're saying that's a bad? Yeah.
You're in the wrong.
how practically, like if I'm in the middle of, if I'm engaged in a mitzvah that I enjoy and love, and it makes me feel good, and I feel love for Hashem,
Yeah.
how do I insert awe there? I feel like there's
We're not inserting awe in the middle of a mitzvah. What's happening is we're describing, for the next 10 chapters, we're describing a regimen of meditation that we're going to engage in to increase our overall love and awe of Hashem. So this is not something you're doing in the moment, on the fly. It's not like you're assessing, oh, I need a little bit more awe over here. Let me give a boost to that. He's describing just a general regimen that we need to do preemptively, proactively. We need to keep our awe levels up. And then automatically, when you're doing mitzvahs, those mitzvahs will be imbued with that awe. Okay. So he says you have to get that at least into your brain. If you can't get it into your heart, you have to at least get it into your brain. At least a revelation of the latent awe that we have, that fear of separation that we spoke about in chapters 18 and 19, that the soul abhors the notion of being separate from God for even one moment. And that's native, that's instinctive to the godly soul. We just need to bring that out consciously. So he says, all right, fine, great. So bring that out. How do you bring that out? Dahainu. Namely, here's how you bring it out. Lisbeinin b'machshavte al kopanim, to at least think about in your brain, in your thoughts. Gdula saints of Baruch Hu Malchusei. Here's a meditation. Bing, 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 bing. Alert. Notice. Do not ask me afterwards, when are we going to learn a meditation? This is the meditation. I'm just notifying you because if I didn't tell you this is a meditation, you probably wouldn't think of it that way. This is a meditation. In fact, expert level, it's several meditations. But let's not get too complicated. It actually is several meditations. All right, this is a meditation. Get ready. You're going to think about. A meditation is just a subject to think about. Okay, here's the subject you're going to think about. You're going to think about the greatness of Hashem and His kingship. Asher hi malchus kol olamim, which is a kingship over all worlds. Alyenim v'tachtenim, the higher worlds and the lower worlds. He's got a big kingship. It's not like one of these small little rinky-dink countries. It's a big empire. V'iyu mamali kol almin. You still thinking? You meditating?
Yes.
And He's permeating all worlds. He's permeating. What does that mean? He's present within them. He runs through the very fabric and fiber of all of these realities. V'soivev kol almin. And He encompasses all worlds because He can't be contained within them. So,
This meditation.
what?
We did this meditation.
Oh, we've referred to these concepts before. Yes, we have. These are familiar concepts.
We need to hear it more than once.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No,
Okay.
but if the Bala Tanya spends 7 weeks on a Vav,
Yes.
why are we repeating these words?
Because now it's in the context of a specific meditation. The number of ideas here is somewhat limited. There are a certain amount, I didn't count them, a certain amount of ideas that are discussed in Tanya. But the way that they're arranged and combined and juxtaposed with each other create the different contexts. So right now is a context, what to think about on a regular basis in order to muster up some basic level awe that you can use when you're doing mitzvahs. So that when you're doing mitzvahs, even the positive commandments, it's not all about you, it's about your reverence for God. Let's continue the meditation. So what are we thinking about? Hashem and His
Kingship.
greatness and His kingship,
All worlds,
which is a kingship of
higher.
many worlds, higher and lower. And what is His relationship to those worlds? He's present entirely within them, and at the same time, simultaneously, He encompasses them because He cannot be contained within them, so He transcends all of them. Okay, this is a thought. This is a complete thought. That's why I really don't want to be derailed. Okay, let's keep going. Ukemesha Kosov, like it says, is it not that I fill all the heavens and the earth? Now, we set that up. That's the alley-oop pass. Now here's the slam dunk. He sets aside the higher worlds and the lower worlds. What does it mean He sets aside? That proverbially He gives them secondary importance. He sets them aside. It's not His focus. And focuses His kingship on the Jewish people in general. Okay, what's happening here? We're thinking about the fact that God is a great God with a great kingship over many worlds, which He fills and transcends. And yet, that's all the setup. That's the setup. He focuses His attention on the Jewish people in general. The alav bifrat, and on Him, meaning you, dear reader, as an individual specifically. Ki chayav adam loymar, because a person is obligated to say, Bishvili nivra ha'olam, the world was created for my sake. Okay, so what's the meditation now? The meditation is we're considering the greatness of God and his kingship, and that within that context, he chooses to put his focus on me. On me. Now, stop, pause. Let me ask questions. Let me guide you. This is just a thought right now. It's not an emotion, although maybe it's starting to tickle some emotional fibers and you're starting to feel some feelings. So I just want to ask a question. Do you feel us heading in an Ava direction or a Yira direction?
Both. The first part is Eros, and the second one is Ahava. The greatness of God, you become in awe, and then you're like, oh wait, this is my law, this is the law.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
They're not mutually exclusive, but this meditation has a very specific focus and goal. The purpose of this meditation is to induce yira, to induce awe. That's how we presented the very beginning of the chapter. We said we need some modicum of yira even when doing things for Hashem. It can't just be all love even when doing things. Even when doing nice, sweet, kind things, there has to be a basis of self-containment. And he says, here's the meditation that you're going to use in order to muster up some of that awe. So he sets up a context. First, be overwhelmed. Be overwhelmed. Go to the planetarium and go look at the stars, okay? Be overwhelmed by the grandeur of it all. But it's much bigger than that because it's not just the physical world, it's spiritual worlds as well. It's so massive, it's so huge. And then you start to think about how he's focusing his attention on you. That's not supposed to feel warm and fuzzy, ladies. There are meditations that will induce warm fuzzies. This is not one of them.
Well, the focus and attention is not in judgment, but in loving us.
I didn't say it's dread. I didn't say that he's an abusive tyrant and that we're terrified that we popped up on his radar and we hope he forgets about us. That's not what I said. But it is awe-inspiring that such a great and awesome king is paying attention to you. It's not supposed to induce anxiety, but it is supposed to be awe-inspiring.
It seems to me, Rabbi,
Yes.
that the bottom line is the love, because the fact that Hashem, who is so great and so awesome and all the above, is able then to focus just on me, and that the world was created for me and for my sake,
Yeah.
is like a father.
We don't call him a father here. But we don't call him a father here. There are meditations where we focus on him as a father. This is not one of them.
It feels like it.
Well, that's why I'm trying to guide you to know what to get out of this meditation.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, he's observing me, so I really need to pay attention.
Well, can we continue? Because we're in the middle of the meditation. Let's find out what we're thinking of once. So all we know is he's focused on me. Okay, fine. And where do I get off thinking he's focused on me? Well, bishvili nivad ha'olam, right? Okay. All right, let's continue. V'hu gam hu mekabel olav malchusei. And he here means you. It's speaking in the third person. That's the formal way you speak. In rabbinic literature, it refers to the person, the reader, as in third person. And he, meaning you, I'm going to just say you. Receive upon yourself Hashem's kingship, meaning now you're actively receiving it upon yourself. It's not just some objective reality that happens to be true whether or not you acknowledge it. You are now also acknowledging it and accepting it. Liyes melech alav, that Hashem should be king over you. And yes, like I said, this is not a father meditation. This is a king meditation. Ula'avdei, and that therefore you should serve Hashem. V'lasisitzeinei, and do His will. Bechol minei avedas eved, in all manners of the service of a servant. The feeling that it is inducing in me is that of a faithful servant. This is not a filial father-son relationship, although we will have that later. We're going to have so many meditations, you won't remember any of them. And you'll say, I don't need any more meditations. I have more meditations that I can deal with. But right now, this is a meditation where we're thinking about Hashem as king and us as servants. Okay. V'hina Hashem nitzav alav, and behold, Hashem is standing over him. That's a verse from Parshas Vayetze. It's speaking about Yankov Avinu. Hashem was standing over him. But we're applying it to all of us. This is one of the 12 psukim, by the way, also. 12 psukim, we should have a whole class just in 12 psukim, a whole series. 12 psukim are the 12 Torah verses that the Rebbe chose that should be the foundation of a Jewish child's education.
Can I tell you something amazing about that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was in Israel over Lag BaOmer, and there was a Chabad parade of all the kids.
Yeah, Lag BaOmer parade, sure. Yeah.
The rabbi called up, like, who wants to repeat the first pasuk?
Yeah.
The second pasuk?
Yeah.
And they, like, announced it on the loudspeaker.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what that is.
That's what they have.
Every time we have a gathering.
Yes, one of them is Shema, yes.
I have it on video, so if anyone...
So you saw it in Meron by Rashbi.
No,
This
this was in Yerushalayim.
Oh, it's in Yerushalayim, on Lag BaOmer.
Yes.
On Lag BaOmer. Yeah, it's very common to have Lag BaOmer. By the Rebbe, they had Lag BaOmer parades. And, yeah. Okay, we should have, when we finish Tanya, we should have a series on 12 psukim. We should. Okay.
That's what we did.
So I'll just put it out there. After we finish chapter 53, maybe we'll do 12 psukim. Okay. So, V'hine Hashem, V'hine
Can I ask you a question about
Hashem. Okay. I only got one response over here. Hold on. We're in the middle of the meditation. V'hine Hashem nitzav alav. Now here, you're still meditating. Hashem is standing over you. Umlei cholor it's kavedei. And yet, at the same time, zoom out. The whole world is full of His glory. So you're zooming in, you're zooming out, the juxtaposition of the two. On one hand, He's hyper-focused on you. And yet, at the same time, He's filling the entire world with His glory. Umabit alav, and He's staring at you. You see the juxtaposition there? Hashem standing on you. He's filling all the worlds with His glory. Umabit alav, and He's staring at you. Staring, by the way, I told you, this is a reverence and awe-inducing meditation. He's staring at you. Uvechin klois v'leiv. He's not just staring at you, He's staring in you. He's searching. To be beichen means to search. Klois, your kidneys, v'leiv, and your heart. Why is He searching my kidneys and my heart? You always were thinking about why the kidneys and the heart?
Kidneys are fear.
Kidneys are klois yoitzes. The kidneys are netzach and hoid. And leiv is,
The heart.
chesed gvura, tiferes. So the emotional faculties. He's searching the heart. Yeah. The heart is the emotions. Kidneys are the attitudes. Netzach and hoid are the attitudes. They're not emotions. They're more, I call them attitudes because they're more focused on execution, as opposed to emotions, which are more abstract, rarefied.
And which are the emotions? Which spheres?
The emotions are chesed gvura tferes, and the attitudes are netzach hoid.
Where is the car? We should actually also do a
What?
Yeah, another class on that. What?
I said tferes. I said Tiferes.
It's gonna be
It's
on
in
our
the heart. I
computer.
said it. I said it. Yeah, there's a lot. You guys, we need more focus. We need more focus. Okay, a lot of details getting missed. Okay. All right.
So he looks into our heart and our kidneys.
Yes. Well, he said kidneys and heart, but
Kidneys and
I'm not into diukim. I'm not gonna. There is significance. He says kidneys and heart, but okay. Yes, he looks into us, meaning all the stuff that's going on inside of you. In other words, not just your behaviors, that which is apparent by outer appearances, but he's looking into your motives. So this is intense, right? This is to induce awe. He's looking into you, okay? And he's assessing your real motives, what you're really, really feeling, okay? All right. Im oivdei karoi, if you're serving him fittingly, meaning are you serving him up to your capacity? You're being assessed here. So, yeah, this is awe-inducing. You're being evaluated. You guys get nervous when I ask you questions of comprehension of something I said 30 seconds ago. Imagine how nervous you would get if the king of all kings would stare into you, x-ray vision into your emotions. Okay, it would be even slightly more intense than that. Yeah. No, it's not supposed to. Hold on a second. You said this feels worse than Yom Kippur. So in your statement, you're actually implying that Yom Kippur doesn't feel good either.
No, I'm saying
None of
Yom
this
Kippur
doesn't.
does feel good. I like
Oh,
Yom
okay.
Kippur, but this,
So do I.
What's wrong with it?
it's a little intense.
It is intense. I didn't say it's not intense. I said it was intense. Okay. It's intense. Yes, it's intense. Yeah.
So we have this meditation.
Yes.
And we're saying that the king, and all his strength and glory and power, is looking into us.
Yes.
This is because we're letting him under that meditation. But other times he's not going to look into
No.
our-
So, hold on a second. You're meditating on it is not making it happen.
It's happening anyway.
It's
Whether you like it or not.
Correct.
Always.
Right. It's happening always. Yes. You're just thinking about it. And so what's the difference between thinking about it and not thinking about it? Ladies, you got to nail this one. I want 100% accuracy. You got it. Yes. Thank you. Exactly. So it's happening either way. Your thinking about it will make you you feel it. Yeah, to have awe about it. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Okay. All right. The alkane, therefore, there has to be a therefore. There's a point to this. Therefore, tzarich lavid lefanav be'ema v'yiro. You have to serve before Hashem with awe and reverence. Ke'emed lifnei hamelech, like you're standing before the king. In other words, the emotion of awe leads to service with awe. The point here is it leads to behavior. It leads to behavior.
Or it should.
Well, yeah, that's the point. Yes.
It's
Ema,
trying to
but
serve
you know-
that type of awe.
Ema is another type of, I run out of synonyms. I need a thesaurus. You know, I have the world's worst thesaurus. Not only is it terrible, it's terrible. I don't know. They're shades of awe. They're not love. Ema v'yira. Awe, reverence. You can maybe even say fear. I don't like to say fear because it just gives people the wrong
Is that
thoughts.
the same root? Ama is the mother?
No.
No. We decided that last week.
No. Okay. All right. V'yamik b'machshavazu, and he should deepen. He should get deep with this thought. V'yarich ba, and he should think about it at length. There's depth and there's length. Depth is talking about intensity of focus. Length is talking about how much time you put in. Meditation. So you should think about this according to the capacity of his brain and thought. In other words, everyone's going to have a different level because everyone has a different mind, everyone has different capabilities, but whatever your capabilities is. Come into the gym, how much are you going to bench? Depends on you, but whatever it is to get a good workout for you. Ukfi apnai shalai, also according to your free time. Lifnei, now he's going to frame it a little bit more. When should you do this? When's a good time to engage in this meditation? Lifnei esak Torah, before you learn Torah. Ay ha-mitzvah, or before you do a mitzvah. In other words, you're going to use this meditation to learn Torah and do mitzvahs with this sense of awe. Kamei lifnei levishis talis tefillin, for instance, before you go and put on talis and tefillin. V'gam yizbeinin, and also you should think, another meditation, Eich she'orein tov baruch hu haseh v'kolam malikolam hu rotzene elyein. How, you should think about how the infinite light, which surrounds all worlds and fills all worlds, which is synonymous also with Hashem's will, whom malubish ba'esias v'chochmas ha'torah, is invested within the letters, the actual written letters, and the chochma, the wisdom of Torah, ay b'tzitzis utfilin elu, or in the tzitzis or the tefillin that you're putting on. In other words, you're recognizing the divine will and intelligence that is within this Torah that you're about to study, that is within the mitzvah that you're about to do. So therefore, when you're learning this Torah, or when you're putting on this talis and tefillin, you're actually drawing down this light upon yourself, the hainu. More specifically, you're drawing this light upon the portion of God, meaning your divine soul, we spoke about in chapter 2, which is in your body, to have it be subsumed within and nullified to this blessed light. So that's going to happen anyway when you learn Torah or you do a mitzvah, but we're going to think about it before we learn Torah and do a mitzvah, in order to induce a certain appreciation, specifically within the kav of yira, within the realm of awe and reverence. Why? Because as we said at the beginning of the chapter, that it's not enough to do out of love, although primarily the primary motivation for doing is love and for not doing is awe. However, even in the doing, there has to be some level of awe. And where are we going to get that awe? So we just described some basic meditations for putting ourselves in a frame of mind that is conducive to awe when we learn Torah and do mitzvahs. Yeah.
When you're in that frame of mind, right, like you mentioned, now you're in that frame of mind, all the mitzvahs that you do, and this is just what, all the mitzvahs that you do then are now going to be coming from love and awe, or each mitzvah that you do, you have to read before you do it in order for it to, then you have to.
You're saying how often do you have to reset this intention?
No, not how often you have to reset this intention. Let's say you work on it and you're in that frame of mind.
Yeah.
Now all the mitzvahs that I do are with kavanah and they're all whatever, or is it that before you do each mitzvah you have to?
So that's a good question. I mean, that's a very practical question. But I think it is what I was saying. How often do you have to reset the intention? Like if I switch from one mitzvah to another mitzvah, do I have to do the meditation again? I don't think so. But although later in the chapter he's going to say that if you're involved, I know we don't have this problem so often, but if you're involved in one sustained performance of a single mitzvah for longer than an hour, so the spiritual energies in the universe shift every hour, so then you have to reset your intention at least once an hour.
Like an example.
It doesn't have to be at the hour. It's not like 10-10 wins, no.
Once we're engaged
I have-
in the mitzvah, don't we shift towards a kavanah state different than the meditation?
I think you're correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is more of what to think in order to enter into the mitzvah. Yeah.
This is what we think so that we end up.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's not really talking about kavana then.
It's another
I think I'm still very stuck on last.
on the previous 3 chapters. Yeah. Yeah. It's different than the previous 3 chapters. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a question about something you said at the beginning of the class.
Yeah.
You said that the Alter Rebbe spent 6 weeks on one
6 or
letter.
7 weeks.
6
Yeah.
or 7 weeks on one
Vav.
letter.
On one
On
vav.
vav.
On the vav
But
from
anyway,
V'ika v'shosha.
How
Yeah.
long did it take for him to write all 53 chapters on the
I told you.
Haggadah?
Till he wrote it for a couple decades.
Decades, yeah.
So how
Yeah.
old was he when he passed away?
He finished Tanya before he passed
Yeah, but
away.
how old was he when he died?
Why? What are you trying to figure out?
What, he did it after he died?
Why?
No, he said he did it before he died.
Right, so I'm saying, I'm trying to get an idea. If it took him 6 weeks on one letter,
It doesn't mean every letter took 6 weeks.
Just
That
this.
letter
Just
took
that.
6 or 7 weeks.
right, that letter, so,
I'm sure there were letters that took a second to write, but that letter, because of the difference, whether you write that letter or not, it changes the meaning. So he deliberated on that particular vav. He doesn't spend 7 weeks on every single letter.
no, of course not.
Then the math would be off. Yeah.
The mitzvahs that we do that come from a place of love also need awe. What about the mitzvahs that we refrain, like the lo saseh, I guess, like that?
Yeah. The sumerah so certainly is based on awe.
Right. Does that get a dose of love?
Okay, that's a great question. Okay, let's hold off on that. Okay, I think we're in a good resting place for
So
this
we're
week.
meeting again in 2 weeks. Reminder.
Yes, we're meeting again in 2 weeks. We do not have class next week.